There he is, Donald Trump, the US president. He's in Davos for the World Economic Forum. And, of course, he's also going head-to-head at the moment with none other than Greta Thunberg. And if we go to the front of the Independent, your inaction fuels the flames, Greta tells Trump. But President blames prophets of doom for climate crisis fears. Activist Greta Thunberg launched a scathing attack on Donald Trump's stance over the climate crisis yesterday, claiming his inaction is fueling the flames, speaking to world leaders and industrialists on the same day the president bragged about the US economy and attacked climate activists as perennial prophets of doom. The 17-year-old Swede said Mr. Trump's vow to plant more trees was sorely inadequate to address the situation. Unlike you, my generation will not give up without a fight. Our house is still on fire, Ms. Thunberg said at the World Economic Forum at Davos in Switzerland. Ollie Peterson, what do you make of all this?
I think if you take a step back for a moment, isn't this remarkable that in 2020 we have a 17-year-old, a teenager, who is standing up to President Donald Trump, and the two of them are exchanging barbs. It's actually quite funny if you just step back from what they're actually talking about for a moment. The fact that Donald Trump is actually entertaining what Greta Thunberg actually has to say and will respond by saying he'll plant some more trees. He's also there labelled the climate activists as prophets of doom. So it's just all part of the theatre that you continue to see and expect from the US President Donald Trump, as we heard in some of that press conference there at the World Economic Forum and talking about the impeachment process. It's not going to end anytime soon, and if anything Greta Thunberg is actually doing, Gleeso, is she is once again starting to create this groundswell of support amongst school students right across the world. And we saw how many days disrupted and lost in the classroom in 2019. We'll probably double that more in 2020. So, look, there's two ways to look at it, obviously. Greta Thunberg, and she will continue to say this is what my generation is pushing for. She's not going to be silent. She's not going to go anywhere. Donald Trump, is he best served turning around and actually engaging in some sort of conversation with her? Should he just ignore her? But as I say, one thing's for sure, she'll continue to really encourage, I suppose, younger citizens of the world to join her cause and probably miss a few more days of school this year.
Caleb, apologies for cutting you off there, but you were trumped by the world's most powerful man. What did you make of what he had to say, and what do you make of the front of the Independent where Greta Thunberg, who is the Time Person of the Year? Ollie, I think that's where sort of Trump has really resented young Greta when she won Time Person of the Year. He felt that trivialised the particular assignment of that honour. But Caleb, what do you make of all this?
I think Trump before was doing what Trump does, and that's to rev up people who don't agree with him and to galvanise his own supporters. I mean, he is a very canny man in front of a camera. He knows how to make people angry, and he knows how to make people who like him support him, because he is basically what, in Twitter parlance, we would call a troll. He knows how to get people going. But this thing with Greta Thunberg, I mean, I don't know whether you've read this book that Greta has put out recently, but it's basically a collection of all of her speeches that she's given over the last year or so across the world. It is filled with hyperbole. Not a lot of facts in it. It's hyperbole. The world is going to end in 10 years. We won't be able to inhabit the planet, all of this kind of thing. Greta Thunberg has done a very good job of galvanising support of young people by selling the idea that the planet is going to end, but it hasn't necessarily been backed up by the facts. Now, we can talk about the fact that climate change is happening and that the globe is warming, etc., etc., but the product that she has been selling is far more extreme than the reality will tell. And I think that's where people like Donald Trump and other leaders get the win over her, because she can get as many people as she wants together in any square, in any part of the world, But unless they're dealing in reality, which a lot of them aren't, they're not doing anything that's worth doing. They can get as angry as they want, but they're not going to change anything. And that's where Trump and Scott Morrison and many other leaders, as much as they wanted to march through Elizabeth Street and all the other places around the country. I was in Elizabeth Street a couple of weeks ago when they marched past the Sky Studio. I was in there on Chris Smith's show, and they were making so much noise outside the studio. But what did they achieve? Nothing. And I think that's the real point.